Little Archie, issue 82, The Witches of Oz. Zelda hates that in The Wizard of Oz, the witch in it is too mean. Hilda says that's normal for books, and Zelda wishes they'd give witches the nice parts. The writer seems unaware of the fact that there is a good witch in that book. But I've heard she's not really that nice herself. She probably wanted to get the evil witch killed, and that was her plan all along. So either Zelda thinks the good witch is mean too, or she didn't read far enough in the book before complaining. I'd hate to think the writer didn't do his research. Hilda says Zelda should write her own book if she doesn't like it, which isn't a mature response to criticism of a work of fiction. Not everyone has the time for that or the talent. Hilda thinks this should be amusing, and Sabrina wants to read it when she's finished. Zelda uses magic to make a pencil write, and decides to write a story about Sabrina, implying right away that she's lazy or uncreative. In the story, Sabrina's told to hold balloons for a guy who wants to tie his shoe, and the balloons lift her off the ground. Mythbusters tested this, and it took an insane amount of balloons, way more than that small amount. But it's still an entertaining story, just one that requires magic balloons. Sabrina wishes she could come back, only to remember that she's a witch who can just summon a jet for herself. Or she could warp home. The jet crashes, and she sees someone who looks just like Pop-Tate and Miss Beasley. Because she didn't just summon a flying broom to fly home, she landed in the middle of the town of Munchie. And the only ones who might know how she could get back home are the Witches of Oz, Zelda and Hilda, who run a travel agency. Realistically, while Sabrina says they're supposed to sing and dance now, Beasley only knows the waltz and doesn't want to sing. Sabrina sees a fork in the road, and someone says he can't make up his mind either. Archie is the Scarecrow parody, and he's perfect for the role because he's indecisive about which girl to date. Sabrina says that maybe the Witches of Oz can help him decide which bird he likes better. Why does she think that? So him going with her is contrived. They crash into Reggie, who's wearing armor and fights with Archie, and Jughead's the cowardly lion, but instead of being cowardly, he gets hungry every 10 minutes. A terrible existence. Sabrina says that if he can stop their fighting, he can eat some of this. His eating causes them to stop fighting from the noise conveniently. It'd make more sense if Sabrina just used magic to make them stop fighting. Then Weatherby says he's trying to sleep in the middle of the day, and sends a winged monkey after them for making noise. It doesn't look like a monkey though. The person grabs some of the kids, and Sabrina's aunts conveniently show up on a broom, and use magic to save them by shrinking the grunt away. Zelda says she might know Sabrina from somewhere. That doesn't make any sense. Sabrina brought them cream pies, but Jughead ate them because she didn't want to reveal her magic by creating some for him. She says she's trying to get back to Riverdale, and Hilda says she'll shoot Sabrina out of a cannon to get there, rather than simply teleporting her home safely. Then it turns out Zelda's just been dreaming the whole thing instead of this actually being her story, which is a reveal I'm getting tired of by now. It doesn't have to be this way. She doesn't have narcolepsy, so why did she fall asleep? Sabrina surprises her with cream pie, and the story ends with Zelda saying it's the best part of her story. This story is about Zelda being upset about how evil the Wicked Witch of the West is, and Hilda goads her into writing a story herself to give witches a good name. But she shows that she's too uncreative because she writes a ripoff of The Wizard of Oz starring Sabrina herself and the people she knows from around town. Right away you know it's a concept, but this is ridiculous. I liked it though, but it was confusing that Sabrina got carried away by a few balloons. The plot holes are justified because it's just a dream of Zelda's. But still, you would think that Zelda would know Sabrina well enough to know that she wouldn't be so stupid as summon a jet to fly her around to save her, instead of just warping home, or controlling the balloons into taking her home, or summoning a broom to fly her home. Of all the things she could decide to do to save herself, so she should have just been not written to have magic at all, cause she barely used it anyways. I like that Archie was the Scarecrow because he's indecisive, but everyone else was picked for the roles at random. Jughead would still be cowardly. Reggie would have worked better as the Wicked Witch stand-in because he's more openly evil than Weatherby. It didn't have to be revealed that it was all just a dream of Zelda's. And the Land of Oz was just Pop-Tates and a yellow road. I also have to just assume Sabrina can't warp home when she's a witch too because her magic isn't developed enough yet. Little Archie, issue 83. Wait and see. Sabrina's aunts get worried about her because she's been sitting in a chair all evening instead of at the chocolate shop. She's sad because tonight her friends are all doing things with their fathers. Her aunts feel bad for her because they're all she has, and Zelda must only think she's beautiful by witch standards. Hilda says they can do stuff with Sabrina, go figure, and says they could take Sabrina somewhere with their magic. Hilda says a spell to get 3 tickets for the roller derby. In Fairly Odd Parents, Timmy wasn't allowed to do that with his wish because it'd be stealing the tickets from someone else. So it's refreshing to see a story where the magical characters can do whatever they want. It's better escapism. Hilda says the show starts in 15 minutes, and the family flies on a broom, and for some reason it went from the show starting in 15 minutes to it starting in 5 minutes for no reason. And the cop's totally casual about them flying a broom, and just tells Hilda to fly over to the side. I guess the whole town still knows they're a bunch of witches after that earlier story, and he's already used to it. And they just know they can do nothing about it because the witches are so powerful. Zelda and Hilda are confused about being expected to show him a driver's license. And he shouldn't be pulling them over, because if they can fly above the traffic, they're not going to cause any harm by ignoring traffic laws. Why were they flying so low to the ground that a cop would see them anyways? They'd always fly so high up that nobody would see them and get distracted and potentially crash. Thankfully, he says they can go free because wives don't need a license to their broom. So it just wasted our time being a jerk trying to fill a quota. Hilda says they'll get to their seats faster if they fly on a broom, and people just assume it's a team from Omaha and it's a novel act. Then someone falls on Sabrina's aunts and thanks them for breaking his fall. They're dazed, and the aunts think it's an awful hat show because some women are fighting. Zelda wants to help, despite not having any way of knowing right now which one she should help. She doesn't break up the fight right away with magic for some reason, or listen to Sabrina. Instead, she's told to get lost, and says she can't be lost. And when she's told to get skates on, she zaps them onto her feet in front of the referee. Hilda joins in, even though Sabrina didn't want Zelda to go there. And she makes them too big for no reason, which somehow surprises her. And unlike in the 70s and 90s comics, the ants are instantly good at skating. So I have to just assume that part of their spell when they zapped up skates was that they're good at skating now. Both teams go after the ants for some reason, and Sabrina says her ants made the front page of the newspaper the next morning for a riot in Riverdale. How did things escalate so quickly? The Riverdale Arena wants to put on a wrestling show next starring her ants, who are somehow still visibly beaten up when if they're omnipotent, they would just use magic to heal themselves. Zelda says all they wanted was to show her a good time. And Sabrina says she can't think of any other 2 people she'd like to do stuff with, and calls them the best parents she could have as the story ends. That's true. They're not annoyingly strict with her, punishing her all the time. And they're not complaining about her being too good either. I just found the best version of the ants. This story is about Sabrina's aunts wanting to take her to the roller derby with tickets they magically stole. Because they see a fight break out there, they join the derby and start fighting as well instead of just brainwashing the people into not fighting each other anymore. Which would have been more subtle and avoided anyone getting hurt. Luckily, Sabrina ended up appreciating it. Little Archie, issue 84, Big and Bigger. Grundy hears some students talking about the fact that they got the biggest cake for Grundy's birthday. I don't remember anyone doing that for their teacher. Sabrina's in charge of getting the presents, and Grundy gets excited and says she'll have to do something for them. I guess something bad's gonna happen because she decided to buy ice cream for the cake. Sabrina somehow trusts Reggie to have a good present, and he should know that the way he's talking makes it obvious that his present couldn't be trusted. Sabrina's impressively got the common sense to be suspicious of them, so she follows them and asks why he's giving Grundy something from Archie. Reggie tells Sabrina not to touch the gift, and she gets splashed with black paint, which is pretty cruel. I'm glad it's explained how that's possible. There's a mousetrap there to snap shut on a paint balloon. Reggie wastes time playing innocent just to give up on it, and Sabrina realizes that she has to get rid of Reggie to make sure Grundy will have a good party. She casts a spell to make his balloon swell up and fly him away. Then he wonders how a flying nail got near him, and the balloon pops on him. Why would he wonder how it got near him? I thought she wanted him out of the way for the party. Why would she pop it right away? It should be explained that she waited until after the party was over before doing this. Grundy's flattered at what she's getting. Out of nowhere, the kids go from saying they want to give her cake to randomly giving her cake of lavender-scented soap. No one would be stupid enough to do this. So the story ends with her fortunately not punishing them and instead buying a cake and coffee. I figured she was just getting her hopes up, but not like this. I thought she'd slip or something. This story was about Sabrina and her friends planning on getting Grundy a birthday gift, because I guess Grundy told them when her birthday was just in case. So Reggie plans on pranking her, I guess because he hates that she makes him do stuff he doesn't want to do. Or more believably, he hates all the punishments she gave him. Sabrina casts a spell to make him float above the ground holding a balloon and then pops it to send the paint on him. It was fun to see him get punished for trying to get Archie in huge trouble for no reason. I have to assume he was too busy getting washed up and getting new clothes to bother Grundy. But I'd still expect him to be kept in the sky until after Grundy would get her gift. And it's not believable that they'd give her a disappointing gift instead of an actual cake and think she'd want soap. Why would they refer to soap as cake? How would kids even know about soap like this? Little Archie, issue 85, Sale Days. On the day Zelda began to clean the house, she wants her family to help her carry the junk out to the streets because while there's nothing wrong with her rug, they have too much stuff in the house. Hilda suggests a garage sale. How will they know what to charge for each item so that they won't get ripped off? How could they remember what they paid for all that stuff? And Hilda creates a garage for them, which would confuse the neighbors wondering why they got a garage instantly. Hilda uses magic to make everyone in Riverdale dream that Hilda's gonna have a garage sale this Saturday. And I guess them being brainwashed into checking to see if it's really gonna happen or not is a part of the spell. Because otherwise they wouldn't be guaranteed to check. Zelda tells Hilda that the people are just standing there and gets told to put them in a buying mood with her magic. Reggie agrees to buy a mirror where the reflection calls him the best looking person here. The witches are being amazingly reckless by just casually selling people magical stuff and not even caring. That's escapism. Grundy says she has no way to get the rug home. Sabrina says she'll fix that and flies her home on a flying carpet. Weatherby says he wants to clean up the school with a broom. Can it still grant wishes? Does he not remember the wish-granting broom anymore? Or did it get that spell on it removed? And doesn't he have a janitor for this? So that's a lame excuse. Jughead wants to buy a teapot because it has something to do with food. And Betty loves the walking doll toy. Dilton wants to buy some books. And Hilda uses magic in front of him to give the books legs to walk home for him. Either he knows she's a witch already or he assumes she's actually a brilliant engineer like him. And that's why all the magical stuff is really happening. If everyone said that's why, because they've seen Dilton's inventions, that'd help explain why people aren't ever freaked out about witches. Grundy thinks the flying carpet is a wonderful way to get to school. It'd avoid all the traffic. And Jughead's staying right where the teapot is instead of going to the cafeteria for lunch. I'm just waiting for the magic items to backfire for everyone just to force the status quo again. Even though I wouldn't be opposed to them keeping a lot of that stuff. Jughead summons a genie looking like a mixture of Hilda and Zelda from the teapot, and casually orders way more food than he could eat without getting full. He couldn't eat them all before they'd get cold. So he'd need to bring some of the 20 burgers home and put them in the microwave. This is a good thing for him because it'd save the school some cafeteria food and his parents money on feeding him. But it'd suck if someone tried to use the teapot for a more ambitious wish. He should know better than to use it in front of someone. But if all he's actually going to use it for is summoning food, then I don't see a problem with him keeping it forever. It's the idea that it might get taken away from him that's more intimidating. Betty tells Grundy that she already has her English assignment done, as we see that her doll toy can do her schoolwork for her. So that would be punished, and it's obvious that she's using the doll to cheat. So she'd know better than to have it in front of Grundy doing that. Why would the doll be able to do this? It would get witches in trouble too. Weatherby's flying on a broom, and Sabrina says she somehow only knows one way to slow down the broom, and it's to let it crash you into the wall. That's nonsense. She'd just tell them how to actually slow down. It wouldn't have no way to slow down. It shouldn't even work for a mortal. But I already went over how it's able to work for anybody to avoid witches suing the broom makers when they've run out of magic. Sabrina should just heal Weatherby and make him forget he crashed into the wall. Dilton's still running after his books, And after school, Merlin shows up at the door and says he'll have to undo this mess with a spell that'll leave him exhausted for days, bring everything they sold back to the room it was in. So he tells them not to do any more garage sales. They should have known that. They've lived on Earth for centuries. What makes them think they would be allowed to sell obviously magic items to people? Why didn't he tell them this earlier? Merlin gets karma for depriving Jughead of his food genie and Grundy of her flying carpet. The garbage man took his broom. He wonders how he'll ever get back to his magic kingdom now. How's he that stupid that he forgot he could teleport? He flies away on a magic carpet, and the story ends with a giant broom near the city dump with people on it. And someone calls it a jumbo jet. Why wasn't it Hilda who erased people's memories of what happened? Why is it always Merlin? If only the head witch could do that. That'd put all the burden on him when it comes to keeping magic a secret. And he'd be completely overworked because there's witches on Earth revealing magic all the time. And he's already completely exhausted with one incident. This was a story with a premise that was probably very easy to come up with. The people of Riverdale got sold magical items from Hilda's garage. And the most ridiculous part is that the family knows they're magical and somehow doesn't anticipate that selling them would backfire. If Merlin's against it, they should have known better in the first place after centuries. It's sad that Grundy lost her flying carpet because it let her go to school without causing pollution and buying gas. That was the only magical item that had no awful consequences other than Reggie's mirror. Somehow Weatherby can't just make the broom slow down just through the power of thought, even though it's a magic broom. So he crashes, and for no reason the doll toy was programmed to be able to do a person's schoolwork. That was stretching it to find a negative consequence to her getting a doll. And Merlin shows up at Hilda's house to reverse everything before we could see Jughead's teapot get stolen from him by someone who shouldn't have it. Which is what I should have seen instead of some other things. I assumed they forgot that the teapot summons a genie because they would have not used it for a long time because they're already witches. Or they knew that Jughead would be the only person who should be trusted with a genie.